What's going on YouTube? So the Z has long been a symbol of Nissan's sports car heritage. And this new Z continues in that tradition by offering a lot of performance for a relatively affordable price tag.
And the time has finally come for us to spend a full 7 days with this performance coupe.
So is this the best 400 horsepower performance bargain on the market? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Now, of course, the proper place to start off this review is under the long hood of this Z. So what are you gonna find under there? Well, you're gonna find a 3-liter twin turbocharged V6 across all the trim levels. This is producing 400 horsepower unless you choose the new Nismo model. That's the highest performance option. In that case, it's gonna be making 420 horsepower. Now, in terms of your transmission options, the standard Z is going to give you the option of a 6-speed manual transmission or a 9-speed automatic transmission. Power is put to the ground to the rear wheels only, and in terms of your fuel economy, you're setting at 20 mpg combined for this model.
Now, of course, we're going to be taking this performance coupe out for a spin, and you won't want to miss that. And while we're on that test drive, we're going to get things like our sound level reading. The top fell off, the sound level reading. Maybe we can see how loud it is while accelerating. And then after that, we're also going to be talking about pricing and 2 new elements we're integrating into our reviews: resale value and reliability. So you'll certainly want to stay tuned for that.
But this Z gets a lot of attention for its exterior design as well as the color of the interior. So let's get into that. So when this new Z was first introduced and when we first drove it, that was nearly 2 years ago, back in 2022. And I was wondering, when we got this loan, do people still find this as awesome to look at as back then 2 years ago? And the answer is definitely yes. We have gotten a lot of attention this week in this Z. People certainly love the way this new generation looks, and Mason and I both agree as well. It really just blends that classic Z proportion, a lot of classic elements that you can see that harken back to the heritage of the previous 6 generations of the Z, including up here in the front, but you also have modern elements like the newest Nissan logo right through there, as well as just the overall sculpting of this long and sleek hood. Now let's talk a little bit about our headlights as well. These again do have some of those retro design cues, but we have fully modern LEDs up top here. We also have the cool daytime running light and turn signal indicator that kind of wrap around the outside edge. Of course, there's not going to be any fog lamps or anything like that. Now moving around to the rear, just like I said with the front, you continue to have those like nice heritage elements in the design that instantly draw that connection to the previous generations of the Z, but it still looks modern and fresh as well.
Yeah, people haven't asked what it is, they just want to see it because they know it's a Nissan Z. Now, as far as some of the design elements, I do want to point out, of course you have this really sleek profile going into the rear. Here with the performance, we're going to get this deck lid spoiler, so I think that kind of spices up the overall look. And then down below that, that's where we're going to find our taillights. So I'm going to have Drew go ahead and hop inside so we can see if all of the taillight elements are LED. I really love the overall look of these taillights. As you can see, we have an LED brake light portion, LED reverse light, and LED turn signal indicator. This is one of those elements. It's a perfect blend of modern as well as those heritage Nissan Z elements. Now, dropping below that, we have a blacked out piece all through here, blacked out lower diffuser, and since we do have the performance version of the Z, we're going to have the performance exhaust. So let's go ahead and take a listen to the exhaust and see how good this Nissan Z sounds.
Now moving on to the wheels, there are a few things to talk about over here. First of all, when you choose the performance model, which is what we have today, that's going to upgrade you from the standard 18-inch alloy wheels to these 19-inch alloy wheels with a dark gray finish. I like the way these look. These also are going to give you some additional things. So first of all, it's going to be staggered width, so they're going to be a little bit wider in the back to give you more grip. You're also going to get performance tires. So these are Bridgestone Potenza performance tires. That's certainly going to give you that nice advantage. And third, you're going to get Brembo brakes. So these are 14-inch ventilated disc brakes up here in the front with the nice red brake calipers. Now moving up here to our mirrors, as you can see, we got the nice gloss black finish on board. We do have blind spot monitoring as well and heating.
Now at the side of this Z, you're gonna once again see a beautiful overall shape. I absolutely love the way this vehicle looks. And at the side, I think that might even be my favorite angle. It just looks so good with that classic rear drive sports car proportion. Now, as far as the overall length, it's gonna be about 172 inches long. And we do have some really cool design elements, such as this piece of chrome going through here, sweeping into the rear. And we also have our signature Z branding right in this area. Now, I do also want to talk about the fact that we have a two-tone roof. The Z is available in 3 fully solid colors, or you can also get 6 colors that have this two-tone combination. I definitely would recommend getting the two-tone. I think it looks a lot better that way. Now, as far as your safety systems are concerned, you get 3 out of 4 active safety features as standard equipment on the Z model. You also have lane departure warning as a passive safety system. But guys, let's go ahead and check out the inside because there's definitely a surprise in there. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
And now let's go ahead and take a look at the interior. First, of course, we'll take a look at the key fob. This is the expected Nissan key fob. You do have smart entry on board. We don't have remote start on the key fob because this is the manual model, excuse me, not the automatic model. And then to get inside, you're gonna press this little button right there. That's gonna unlock the door, and you got the kind of hidden door handle located right there. But check out the interior, guys. I told you there's gonna be a little bit of something special inside because we got the full blue interior to match with the blue exterior, and this really draws a lot of attention, and I think it looks super cool. Now, in terms of the seats themselves, let's talk a little bit about those. The base sport model, that's going to come with a cloth seat. However, the Performance as well as the Nismo come with a leather and Alcantara seat. The whole center here is in the blue Alcantara for maximum grip. You also have these nice thick bolsters. Again, this is finished in the leather. And overall, these seats are very comfortable, I find, as well as hold you in place when you're cornering aggressively. Now, the Performance model is the only one that's going to be partially power adjusting. You have 4 ways of power adjustment. It's actually located over there in the middle, which is kind of strange. That's just kind of slides you back and forth as well as adjust the seat back. Other adjustments have to be done manually with these knobs. But let's go ahead and climb inside. Now that we're inside here, let's look at the rest of the cabin materials. One of the things I really like is that the color doesn't end at just the seats because Nissan has reflected it up here on the door trim as well. This is going to be fully covered in the Alcantara and leather trim. Looks super nice. And then the top part of the door trim is going to be soft touch as well. Now as we go up here, this is all going to be finished in a nice soft touch plastic. The center section and more of this blue leatherette material, and all down the console area for your knee to rest against. But let's go ahead and fire it up. The push button start is located right down here next to the shifter. Now that it's fired up, we can go through all the details of the interior. We'll start off with our gauge cluster. So this is one of the fully modernized aspects of the new Z, is the fact that we have a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster. I really like the graphics that Nissan has put in here. A lot of useful stuff and things that you like to see when you're driving aggressively, like that G meter. You also have virtual versions of the boost gauge, although they continue to give you the traditional ones up here on top of the console. I really like that aspect of it, and you can monitor that while you're driving, and it's cool to see them kind of flip around. Now, there is no head-up display offered on any model though, so be aware of that. And in terms of our steering wheel, with the Performance model, we have the premium leather-wrapped steering wheel with stitching details on the outside edges. You're not going to have a Nissan badge, instead you'll have a Z badge, and then you have these buttons here which look touch capacitive, but they're actually still physical buttons that you can press. The steering wheel itself is going to be manual tilt and telescoping. And then let's come over here and take a look at our interior storage. So obviously that's not going to be a focus of a sports car like this, and it is really very, very, very tiny. You could probably fit like 2 donuts in there at the most. So just some basic stuff can fit in there. You do have one cup holder there, and your other cup holder is underneath of this armrest here. And then up in front of that, you have a little bit more storage. You would think that's a wireless phone charging pad, but it's actually not. That's not available on this Z. You just have your 2 USB connections over there on the side. Now, of course, this is exciting because you have a manual transmission, which is something that a lot of brands are not offering anymore. In terms of this transmission, we'll talk about how the performance is later on in the review, but as I go into reverse, you can see the backup camera pop up. This backup camera seems like it might have been a leftover from the previous generation. It's very, very crusty and hard to see what's going on in there, but the good thing is that you do have front and rear parking sensors standard on all models. And you also have the classic style handbrake, which is a lot more engaging than an electronic one. Now over here we have our heated seat controls. As you can see, you've got 2 stages for both driver and passenger. And then as we take a look at our climate controls, this is an automatic setup. The controls themselves are a little strange. You kind of twist down to this area here to get it into automatic mode. Then it will adjust the fan by itself. Also, your temperature adjustment, you don't have any actual readout of what the temperature is. You just kind of have to guess, in a sense, between 60 and 70 and 75 and 90 there. So that's a little bit weird, but overall, it's a very minimalistic cabin. There's not a lot that distracts you from the drive experience, which I guess is the point after all. One thing that is a big improvement, of course, over the last generation is on the technology front. So you're looking at a 9-inch touchscreen. This is going to come on the performance version. You get an 8-inch touchscreen on the base sport version. Nevertheless, it does come with the latest Nissan software on board. So we do have wireless Apple CarPlay, not wireless Android Auto, just CarPlay. And inside of the system itself, as you can see, we also have a built-in navigation system. You do have physical controls here for your volume knob. One of the benefits in the inside for choosing the performance model is that you get the 8-speaker Bose sound system instead of the 6-speaker standard sound system. And let's give that a sample right now. Overall sound quality is decent. It's not going to blow you away. Again, you really want to just hear the performance of the engine when you're driving. Up top here, we have an auto dimming mirror. This is where your HomeLink universal remotes will be built into. And of course, up top here, you don't have a sunroof or anything like that. Perhaps one day, Nissan might bring back the Roadster, but for now, this is going to be a closed-off experience only.
Now, if you wanted to bring your family along for the ride in this Z, I'm unfortunately have to tell you that there is no rear seat area for this Z. It's just going to be some storage. So unless you're going to fit your children in this area or in the cargo area, which is not recommended by Car Confections or by Nissan, you're not going to have space for them. However, you do have a little bit of room for whatever you're going to need. If it won't fit in the center console, you can maybe fit some donuts back there as well. And let's go ahead and check out the cargo area because, you know, when it comes to this Nissan Z, the practicality is actually not as bad as you would think for a 2-seat vehicle. So by pressing this little button under the Nissan logo, that allows the entire rear to kind of lift up. And once we get back here, we're looking at about 6.9 cubic feet of space. So overall, it's a pretty good amount of space. So as you can see, it is a little shallow, that's for sure, but it does have good length to it. And speaking of length, this is Car Confections after all, so let's see how long the overall cargo floor is. About 35 inches for those of you curious. And, you know, I think it's probably big enough to fit a set of golf clubs or something along those lines, but I'm not going to delay our drive any longer. I know you want to see what this Z is like out on the road, so let's get to that.
All right, guys, it's time to head out on the road for our test drive in this Nissan Z Performance. As always, we will cover the standard issue of information as well as, you know, some of the performance information about this Nissan Z. But let's go ahead and get started with an acceleration.
60.
Very nice.
A little past 60, if I'm being honest. All right, well, as you can tell, this Nissan Z has a lot of power. We said that at the spec dump. Actually, before this vehicle came out, it was kind of rumored to be called the 400Z. It used to be like 370Z, indicating the horsepower. So, spoiler alert, it has 400 horsepower, and this is actually the standard engine option across all Nissan Zs. So I really like that about this product, is that you don't have to get, the performance model like this one to get that 400 horsepower, and that base sport model actually has a very attractive starting price, a little over $40,000.
Yeah, for sure. And so this engine, of course, was sourced from the Infiniti lineup, where they have the Red Sport 400 models, and we knew that those models were very, very fast. But it's really awesome to see the engine paired in this more visceral formula. I think that's what's the most exciting thing about this Nissan Z and spending time behind the wheel. You're going to see that as we go through the test drive, but you've got that a lot more traditional sports car feel on board, especially with that manual transmission, that it just really feels so much more natural than the Infiniti products ever did.
I think that's a cop there, so we won't do that.
It's a very bright colored vehicle. You do have to be aware of law enforcement officers.
And also, I think that, that's really something that I want to talk about in this test drive portion is, after living with this for 7 days, this thing gets a lot of attention. We've had a lot more expensive vehicles on loan to us for 7 days, and this gets way more attention because I think people are just genuinely very curious about what this car is. It has that beautiful blue paint scheme, and of course they might hear it as well.
Now, I do want to mention the Nismo version of this model, because that is one of the new things for the 2024 model year specifically, is that they have added the Nismo to the lineup. Now, what the Nismo does is, as I mentioned at the spec dump, it does give you 20 more horsepower. It gives you more torque as well. You're up to 384 pound-feet of torque, and that's still from the 3-liter twin turbocharged V6 engine. That is going to give you a little bit more performance. It's not going to be monumental. And I have to say, we haven't talked enough about the transmission quite yet, but that Nismo model only comes with a 9-speed automatic transmission.
Yeah.
So the Z is available with a 6-speed manual or a 9-speed automatic. And since you can't get the manual with the Nismo, I have to say that I think this performance version is really the way to go. We haven't driven the Nismo, so I'll reserve final judgment on that when we actually do drive it. But since you can get the manual with the Z Performance, I think this is probably the trim that a lot of the purist people are going to want.
And also with this transmission, I just want to point out, it feels right in this vehicle to have a 6-speed manual. This, Nissan Z experience overall, like Drew said, is a little bit more like visceral and just very performance oriented, more so than like luxury. So having the old school 6-speed manual, it just feels right.
We were talking about this earlier, but we feel like it's kind of in between the Toyota GR86 and the Supra in terms of like the visceral feel.
Yeah.
That one there, the 86 is like just nothing is
steering
going,
wheel
bare
shifter.
This is, definitely has a little bit more luxury than that, but it's still very visceral when you're behind the wheel for sure.
Yeah, and when it comes to overall driving dynamics, we've lived with this vehicle for a full 7 days, and I have to say I've been nothing but impressed. I mean, taking it out on a back road like this is so incredibly enjoyable. The steering has so much feel. You know exactly where the wheels are placed, and, it just has absolutely zero body roll whatsoever. It's so refreshing to, hop out of, we review hundreds of cars every year, and you hop out of, X, Y, and Z crossover into this, and you're just reminded of like how good a car can drive. And I love that experience overall in this Z.
Now this does have a limited slip diff, and it does also have a launch control if you get an automatic transmission model. Motor Trend did test this Z at a 0 to 60 of 4.3 seconds. So this can be very, very fast, you know, when it's in the hands of skilled drivers, that's for sure. We're not pushing quite that type of 0 to 60.
Not on the road. But one thing I do want to point out that I really like about this Z is that we do have downshift rev matching. So if you push this little button, it's a S to the side of the shifter that will go ahead and activate that, and really it just makes the overall driving experience better, especially with the manual transmission sitting in traffic. It makes smoother, you know, shifting, and also I just love to hear the way it sounds when you can do that. So certainly I like that they're including that with the manual transmission. It makes it a little bit more modern, a little bit better to drive day to day. You have to be careful with this vehicle because 400 horsepower for something this small and this agile, it will go really fast. By the time you can max out third gear, you could really be getting a hefty speeding ticket, maybe reckless driving ticket if you hit it just right. So certainly you have to be careful. It's a very fast choice. That 0 to 60, I believe every bit of that, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll hit you guys with a little bit more practical information with our fuel economy. So the manual transmission is 18 city, 24 highway, 20 combined. If you get the automatic, you get 2 additional MPG combined, and then the Nismo is going to be setting at 19 combined. And let's do the practical element of testing the sound level reading here, just kind of cruising at 55 miles per hour. So we settled in at 61.9 decibels. It's about what I expected for a visceral performance vehicle. You expect to hear a little bit more engine sound coming into the cabin as well as road noise. You do, but it's not to the point where anything is annoying or insufferable. That's totally fine, but you don't even have to guess. You can always compare all the sports cars as well as all vehicles we test at carconfections.com/sound level readings. On there we have all the models that we test, once again by segment, so that you can see how they all stack up.
Yeah, guys, just so much fun. And really, I think that's got to be today's slam dunk, is just the overall drive experience with this Nissan Z. I absolutely love the way the outside looks, so that would be a close second place. But when you get behind the wheel of this Nissan Z, you just see that it has so much character. It's so much fun to drive, and really this is just becoming increasingly rare as we head into, you know, a more electric future, to have a just traditional stick shift performance vehicle. It is so refreshing, and I just love it. I love it.
Yeah, get it while you can.
Yeah.
Now on the airball side of things, we're going to say that the cabin is a little bit on the basic side of things for the price point. When you choose the sport model, you get that 400 horsepower for barely over $40,000. That's fantastic. But when you escalate through the trim levels, you don't get that much additional stuff inside of the cabin, and the price escalates quite dramatically. For instance, this week I was really missing the fact that it doesn't have wireless Android Auto, it doesn't have a wireless phone charging pad. Some of these elements of the cabin are actually carryover from the previous generation, which was on sale for a very long time. So those are some things that you notice when you live with it for the week. There's just a kind of a few old school elements that maybe Nissan could update.
Now, even though it's not this vehicle's mission, let's go ahead and discuss ride quality. Now, with this Nissan Z, it certainly is going to be on the firmer side. When you hit a bump, you're going to feel it, and you can certainly feel everything on the road, which I think is a good thing for the most part, because you know, you want that when it comes to overall driving dynamics. However, what I will say is if you're looking for like a plush ride or anything, you're not going to find it here. And I think you will also find a more luxurious ride in the Toyota Supra than this Nissan Z.
Yeah, but the seats, I think they nailed the seats. These are really comfortable, even on a longer trip. And like I mentioned in the interior section, they hold you in place really well also. We certainly had a really fun time with this model over the last week, and we hope that we'll test out the Nismo sometime in the future as well, since that model, as you mentioned, you know, dials everything kind of just up even more. You get more aggressive tires, you get more aggressive suspension tuning, Sport Plus mode, and a few other things that we look forward to testing out in the future.
Yeah, but now it's time to talk about pricing as well as predicted resale value and reliability. And let's go ahead and talk about pricing for this Z. Now, we said at the beginning that this may be a sports car bargain, and that's because that sport model really is a very good deal. It's $42,310 and it still has 400 horsepower, so that's very impressive. Now, if you want the performance, that's gonna jack the price up $10,000 to $52,310. And then as far as this particular tester, we have a few options: the paint color, some accessories, plus a $1,095 destination. We're sitting at $55,500 as tested today. Of course, the Nismo is going to cost additional over top of this performance model by quite some measure, so it's just going to be up to your choice on how much you want to spend on this Nissan Z. And if you're looking to buy a Nissan Z or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. Now, why you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price on your new vehicle. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealer negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description, and we also have a pinned comment at the top of this video. Now that we've talked about price, let's also talk about the very important matters of resale value and reliability to make sure you are making a smart purchase. Now, first up, we'll talk about resale value. Now, as an economics graduate myself, Drew and I took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Nissan Z's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, this vehicle will be worth around 50.5% of its original MSRP and around 16.4% after 10 years and 120,000 miles. Now, that does represent basically the industry average in relation to other vehicle makes, but I do want to point out, since we are in the Nissan Z sports car, I will say that resale value may differ a little bit, and actually I think it would tend to have a higher resale value by percentage than other Nissan products.
We've also done the same by calculating potential reliability with our combined reliability index, which is made of a combination of trusted automotive sources on reliability. In this regard, Nissan is rated slightly below average in relation to all other vehicle makes.
If you'd like to check out all of our data about reliability and resale values, as well as learn about our methodology, make sure to head to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a car is a big decision, and you want to make sure you're making a smart choice, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle makes. Well, guys, that's going to be it for our 7-day in-depth review of the 2024 Nissan Z. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you help give us access to vehicles like this, where Nissan will send this car down for us to test out for a full 7 days. So by subscribing, you really play a very pivotal role in the amount of content that we're able to make, so please consider doing so if you haven't already. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.